Dr. Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. Tonight, approval of His Lordship Paul Bafuboni as Chief Justice set to come down to a vote as minority in Parliament stage a walkout indicating opposition to his nomination. We have details, plus the Chief Justice nominee has pledged to reform the judiciary to restore confidence. Stay with us. Also, government set to fully disclose what caused the helicopter accident as the National Security Council receives a report from the investigative team. Must the public know the details? That's the question on the minds of many. Stay with us for the conversation tonight. Calls for workers to remain calm as agitations grow over 9% base pay increment announced by government. We engage a labor expert on this particular issue. We have this plus more, including updates on the ongoing SkyTrain case. Tonight, we've got details for you here on Ghana Tonight. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The minority in Parliament has justified its reasons for not participating in the vetting of the Chief Justice nominee, maintaining that the appointment of Paul Bafuboni is problematic. Ranking on the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee, Kwame Enyimadu Entry, says until the cases pending before various courts on the removal of the former Chief Justice get through to Konu ahead, they will not participate in what they term as an illegality.
The way things are going, we think that we don't want to. If you are not careful, and you saw the interjection that I made, if you are not careful, you might even speak against anybody like the majority leader and whatnot, and we don't want to proceed. I don't know when the majority took this decision that when a minority has a position, we don't have to air it. I don't know.
Take this every line,
and it's not right. Let's allow the process. Let's go through the process. All the questions that we need to ask, let us ask them.
The acting Minister for Defense has led the committee that investigated the August 6th helicopter crash to present their report and finding to President Mahama. The presentation was made at a meeting of the National Security Council. The report will be released to the public on Tuesday, November 11. The Ghana Air Force Harbin Z9 helicopter crashed on August 6th, 2025 at Adansi Ekrofom in the Ashanti region, killing all 8 on board, including 2 cabinet ministers. The Ghana Gold Board has arrested 25 individuals whom it said were involved in illegal gold fabrication, trading and smuggling. The Deputy Chief Executive Officer, Richard Nune Beku, who briefed the media in Accra, said the suspects have been granted police enquiry bail pending prosecution.
At the moment, the Ghana Gold Board has granted these suspects police enquiry bails pending further prosecution of the matter. On the second arrest, Gold Board Intelligence, acting on a tip-off, raided the premises of Legend Precious Metal located at Achimota, Akweteman, Accra. Preliminary investigations confirmed that Legend Precious Metal was operating without a valid license for the Ghana Gold Board. Evidence also indicates smuggling route through neighboring countries and fraudulent schemes targeting unsuspected buyers.
Lawyers for the third convicted coup plotter, Bright Alan Deborah Ofusu, have expressed confidence in their appeal of the death sentence after their client was granted bail. Early on, the High Court granted Deborah Ofosu a 2.5 million cedi bail pending the appeal of his sentence at the Supreme Court. His lawyer Matthias Komivi Jochi spoke to journalists after proceedings.
Demonstrated other circumstances that show that the accused persons were not given a fair trial. For example, we've quoted from page 415, page chapter 35 of ACP Agbodio's book. He was the 10th accused person in that case. And he outlined several breaches of the constitutional rights and other rights of the accused persons. And so we are very confident that this appeal we will succeed. And I'm not surprised that the court, by God's grace, has granted us bail.
Fear has gripped residents of Tanoso traditional area following the gruesome murder of the Kwemuhene Nana Owusu Koko, who was killed on Saturday morning while heading to his farm. The incident, which occurred around 6 a.m. on November 8th, has prompted the victim's family to issue an urgent call for immediate action from law enforcement agencies. Here is what the second-in-command, ACP Stephen Boidu, had to say.
Assembling all the leads to identify the key leads. And I think with this, those involved or behind this crime will by all means be brought to book.
That's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7. Also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. We're also live on 3 News on YouTube. As always, probably brought to you by Flamingo Paint, simply superior. Sasso and Setsa Spray and Call Tum Tum Preko coming up next. A showdown looms in Parliament as members of Parliament vote on Justice Paul Bafo-Bonny's nomination as Chief Justice. The minority staged a walkout earlier today, but the nominee vows sweeping reforms to rebuild trust in the judiciary. That's what he has resolved to do. But then, before he gets the chance to do these or implement these sweeping reforms to restore confidence in the judiciary, he would have to deal with the matter of the minority. Earlier today, they made their stance quite clear, and there was near chaos in Parliament as the minority leader, Alexander Panyumaking, demanded to be allowed to register his side's protest to the vetting of Paul Bafo-Bonny as the Chief Justice. Now, he accused the government of spearheading a campaign pledge to oust for the former Chief Justice, Geto Tokono. Majority Leader Mahama Yariga also will, however, not have none of that, causing proceedings to come to a halt for nearly 2 hours. Now, let's establish this. That's for the uninitiated. Take a look at exactly what Alexander Panyumaking said, what happened, what led to the minority leader also stating quite clearly the opposition to this matter, and that's the vetting of the Chief Justice nominee. This is Panyumaking earlier today. Take a look.
The caucus. We hear with a heavy heart, but an unshakable resolve to defend the Constitution of Ghana, protect judicial independence, and uphold the rule of law. We gather to vet a disputed nominee for office of Chief Justice of Ghana. This should be a moment of national pride and institutional renewal.
I have an issue. The ranking member has no right, no lawful authority to raise anything about what happened in court, the processes leading to a removal of anybody, and the nomination of anybody. You have no right, pursuant to our rules, to raise those issues. So be guided, because if you raise them, I'm going to object. I am objecting to the use of the term disputed nominee, because there's no dispute before us regarding the nomination.
There are dark clouds indeed in this country, where freedom of speech by mere operation of a supermajority. You cannot even, as a member of parliament, make your comment. I am not moving a motion. I am not debating.
That's the minority leader, Alexander Apenyo, marking there. And you also had that intervention by Mahama Yaraga, the majority leader. And in fact, the majority chief whip, that is Nelson Roxon Dafiamepo, also had his take on the path that the minority leader had taken. And in the preliminary statement that he was allowed to speak, well, he said his side is opposed to the nomination, and they're going to have their day on the floor of Parliament when this matter is tabled again in Parliament. Well, this is Apenyo marking again earlier today. Take a look.
To you to proceed whilst we exit this committee room with our views well documented for the records, and on the floor we shall proceed with the debate, further stating our position and take a vote against the nominee as required by the rules of the plenary. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minority Leader. But how do you reject a nominee who is yet to be vetted?
Yes. No, she believes in us.
The report is not ready to be voted for. We are not at the stage of approval. So your conclusion is very preemptive.
Yes, Chairman, with respect. Chairman, with respect.
This is not what I want you to respond to.
No, Chairman, but
I don't want your
Chairman,
response
to the extent that you've raised it, I just need to.
Honorable Minority Leader,
Chairman,
you have your day.
Chairman,
you have your day. The two microphones should be off.
Chairman,
the two microphones should be off. With all due respect,
we have registered our position.
Honorable Minority Leader,
that we have rejected. We don't need to
agreed on your position.
We rejected, and we
agreed on your position. Yes. When it is time for voting, then you can vote again. Yes. So we thank you very much, and we wish you a very good luck. Honorable members. Yes. Honorable members, those present here, we have the constitutional quorum to proceed to vet the Chief Justice nominee and present our report accordingly to Parliament.
That's Bernard Ahiapo, is the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament and also the chair of this Parliament vetting, that's Appointments Committee of Parliament in there, and vetting the Chief Justice nominee earlier today. Well, you saw that near chaos, and in fact it got chaotic, that led to the process being truncated for almost 2 hours. A senior advisor, Africa Parliamentarians Network Against Corruption, Professor David Abdullah, is joining us on Zoom. Prof, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Nene.
Now, so you sat through this entire period before that recess that took almost 2 hours as a result of the chaotic situation, and then when the vetting resumed, Apenyo marking, that's the minority leader, being given that opportunity to make the preliminary statement, which then resulted in that verbal exchanges between him and the majority leader, and eventually they walking out. All of this was expected, is it not, prior to today, that there was either going to be a walkout or that the minority would stay and make their statement, their position quite clear. But with how things played out today, how did they strike you?
Well, I think it's rather unfortunate I think if you see the plenary where this issue was debated and where the speaker actually gave his ruling, and the committee is an extension of that plenary. So for the minority leader to come and rehash these kind of things, I don't think it was going to help the case of the vetting of the nominated Chief Justice. And I also think that it was rather unfortunate because these are lawmakers, and the minority leader and the majority leader actually were at each other's throat. And I think as leaders, they should have exercised restraint and really, take the issues at hand. If I was really the minority leader, because they told him to make a brief statement, and I think that brief statement should have just been probably to welcome, the Chief Justice nominee, and then say another one or two few things. But for him to rehash what happened in the plenary, of which the speaker had already ruled on, I think it was not going to help the case. And I think if you look at the previous actions and acts of the minority leader in different committee situations, we felt that, or our observation is that it has always been unbecoming. For example, during the vetting of the current Deputy Attorney General, I think it was the minority leader who had asked him to dance. And I think it doesn't actually point to the real issue. The real issues and the questions that should have been asked is he qualified for the job? Does he have the experience? Does the person have the temperament? And is the person going to deliver for Ghanaians? And because these committee meetings have been polarized to that extent, it becomes very, very difficult. But I think at the end of the day, when they walked out, they missed the chance of being able to ask their questions. And that's why I'm wondering, how are they going, therefore, to the plenary to go and debate? What are they going to debate? They were not there when the questions were asked. They already preempted the situation by saying that they will not approve the Chief Justice nominee. What else is going to be new? When they get to the plenary, are they going to say, oh, now we've changed our minds, we are going to, vote to approve the guy? You've already said you are not going to vote for him. So, that has preempted most of their strength and their ability to contribute to the democratic processes in our country. Nevertheless, they have it is their right to disagree. It is their right also to voice out whatever they have to say. But things that are within the rules, the standing orders, I think they should obey, because the minority leader was once a majority leader. So he knows the rules. It's not that he doesn't know the rules. And also, in leadership, it's not all the time that you have to win. There are some times you have to at least take a different stance and be able to put across your issues.
I see. But you reference a number of things. The fact that they're walking out, they missed that opportunity, or they missed the opportunity to ask the CJ nominee the questions that they were hoping or had on their minds. But then again, how potent was that strategy of making their statement, making their position known, and then walking out? Then that would have also had an effect, is it not?
Well, it don't have any effect. I think what it actually did, it didn't bring a certain, part of the process to the equation, but it didn't affect the, the CJ nominee to be vetted. Now, if you make a statement, you are there to vet, not to make those kind of statements. When they say you should make a brief statement, I think the majority leader was asking that which part of their standing orders allows them to be able to do that. It is a process that they developed. And if it is so, make a small statement and then wait so that you can then use some of the things that you are now making, you are now presenting. You can ask the nominee and put them in that context. There's no way that the nominee would not answer. And then you at least get something to say when you go to the plenary. And of course, whether they like it or not, I think you know that there's a supermajority, which is the opposition to the minority. And at the end of the day, they'll have the last say, whether you like it or not. It's a democracy. I mean, it might not be fair, but democracy is not that pretty. There are some aspects of it that really most people don't like. But it is the best system that so far that we have. So yes, they missed the opportunity, in my opinion.
I see. Well, we're looking at how this will play out in the plenary. That's what they have indicated. You hear the chair of the committee indicate that how can they reject a nominee who has not even been vetted as yet? But then again, it will still come back to the numbers. It will still come down to the numbers at the plenary.
Yes.
And that's a given, is it not?
Yes, it is. It is a given.
The outcome.
In fact, yes, I earlier said this, to one of your colleagues that look, the minority may walk away or may walk out, and we've seen it in the previous parliament. However, I think I have one thing that I want to add.
Quick one.
When they come to the plenary, what are you going to say that is new, apart from what you already read or the statement you made, and you wanted to make it very clear? Are you going to come up with a different statement? Which means it's going to be the same issue. And at the end of the day, yes, you can make a lot of noise, but you don't have the majority. And let's be clear, people might not understand that, in this particular stage, the people of Ghana has given the current dispensation the majority. So there must be a reason why the people of Ghana did that. So I think it should have been incumbent upon the minority and his team and his people, his caucus, to at least should have stayed and made their points by asking pertinent questions that the appointed CJ cannot refuse to answer. And and they always give everybody a number of questions to ask. So definitely they have about 1, 2, or 3 questions each to ask, and they would have been able to really effectively make their case.
Right. Professor David Abdullahi, thank you for joining us. He's Senior Advisor, Africa Parliamentarians Network Against Corruption. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Well, let's come to the man of the moment. I'm talking about the Chief Justice nominee. He was on the hot seat today. He has been talking big, in fact, making some big promises to reform the judiciary, to restore its image, essentially, and also restore confidence in the judiciary. This is what he had to say.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think the image of the judicial service has gone down. A lot of people have a lot of problems with the service, particularly with regard to the fact that cases keep so long in courts. People go to courts hoping their cases hoping that their case will be heard within a very short period, and cases, but there are some, now the average number of years that a simple civil case can stay in court is about 3 years or 4 years. There are some cases that have been in court for so long. There are also criminal cases, as I said earlier, where people are facing trial over a long period. All these affects people's confidence and trust in the service. But as I said earlier, some of them can be tackled because they are institutional problems. Like, we have vacancies for as many as 116 magistrates. We need to fill 116 courts. We don't have personnel. There are some courts that do not have infrastructure. I mean, you go to the courts and then the buildings are in very serious states of dilapidation. I remember last year, the District Assembly, over the past 3 years, the District Assembly Common Fund sponsored the building of about 100 courts, together with their residences. But it's still not enough. We still have some of these courts built but not occupied because we don't have the personnel.
That's the Chief Justice nominee, Justice Paul Bafo-Bonny, before the Appointments Committee of Parliament earlier today. And private legal practitioner Martin Pebo is joining us on Zoom right now. Counsel, good evening. Thank you for joining us. As an officer of the court, and he talks about the administrative challenges and others that has impacted on the image and confidence in the judiciary. I mean, listening to him and this progressive ideas and objectives that he intends to fulfill, he has just 1 year to do so as Chief Justice, if approved by Parliament. I mean, is this something that's feasible? All of this that he's talked about within this 1 year period?
Oh, sure. 1 year is certainly a very long time, okay? If once the Chief Justice says he means business, yes, it's short, but it's also very long because, it's one step at a time. So once he's, promised that this is one of his foremost agenda, right? He wants to see to it. Sure. And he knows that, Ghana is changed. The promises he's made are on the internet. So at the click of a button, people would see. So he's well aware that he has to walk his talk. So for me, once he made that promise a number of times, it tells you that he's ready to walk that talk. And you see, let's go a bit further. So you see that what is caused the, the image of the judiciary to sink, the trust issues. Yes, there are a whole lot of them, but a lot of them too border on transparency. You see, transparency is very key. That's why I say justice not only ought to be done, but manifestly ought to be seen to be done. You see, it has to be clear. It has to appear to people that justice is being done. So you see that he was asked questions about empaneling. And he said, okay, he's open to AI being brought in, which is good because in America here, they use AI, right? In America here, they use even the algorithms for bail applications, etc. So they feed the information in, and then the machine can tell that grant this person bail, don't grant bail, etc. So there's a lot that we can bring AI to help us do. And I was happy that he said he's open. Yes, he's not an expert, but from the little he's learned, he's open to it. So it helps because the matter of empaneling is a serious matter. Maybe you can even subsequently interview H. Kwesi Prempeh. He did a paper on it in the 90s about empaneling. And you see the Chief Justice said it gives a lot of people fear. Who is going to sit on my case, etc. So that's one key area he delved into, right? Then also matters of when complaints are made against court officers, judges, etc., he would have to see that they are dealt with swiftly. It's not every complaint that is made as an Article 146 proceeding. No, it's not every one. So for those that are not made as Article 146, then it means that those are within the control of the judiciary. And so he would have to deal with those quickly, right? And then issues of when it comes to the criminal trials, ORA is key. It's very, very key. So, you see, he was asked a question about timelines, and he referred to the election petition and how we changed the law to say we'll do it in 42 days. We exceeded it by 2 or 3 days. So we have to replicate that for the criminal trials. Let's agree that, okay, instead of 6 months in the UK for some of the offenses, 3 months for others, maybe because our machines are not up to scratch, etc., we can decide to double that. Anything the UK says they will finish in 6 months, that's those criminal trials. Maybe we can put 12 months. The ones that they say they will finish in 3 months, we can make them 6 months. And then let's go. Because that, the plain truth, and he kept saying that lawyers also contribute. All of us contribute to the delays. Like he said, today, a lawyer will come. My mother-in-law is not well. The next day, I'm taking my wife to the hospital. Then another day, different one. Some of the judges, everybody. So we all seem to contribute to the delays. But if we commit to the reset agenda, we can do all these things. That's change the laws to give limitations, give timelines for criminal trials, and also the 24-hour courts. So you see that he says it appears NDC even stole the idea of 24-hour courts from the judiciary, because the judiciary do 16 hours, because Chief Justice Tokono set up some courts that were doing 2 shifts. So he's looking at how to scale up to 24 hours. Yes, that would be good, especially, it's dear to my heart. My 48 hours is 48 hours. Yes, so that when we have the 24-hour courts, that will also help to ensure that the weekend courts are working well for bail applications to be taken. Look, because I just even this morning, as in a case that they were supposed to arraign the suspects on Sunday, they didn't go. Goldball breached the law. They didn't put the suspects before court within 48 hours. And we're telling the deputy MD, Richard Nunepeku, that no, that's a breach of the law. So maybe Chief Justice Bafubode has to roll up the 24-hour courts quickly and then give more education so that the system will work. So these few that I've mentioned, when they are done, you're going to help increase a lot of trust in the judiciary, a lot of trust, especially the oral cases. We finish the oral cases quickly, it will help.
But then again, also, you beyond all what you have said, he is coming in at a time, if eventually approved, at a time when there's a cloud of controversy over the judiciary, because of this unprecedented development of the removal of a sitting Chief Justice. And then now, albeit he being qualified, the senior most, and the one prime for the job now, will this controversy that surrounded the removal of the Chief Justice, as a former Chief Justice, impact on his image and work as Chief Justice if eventually approved?
Absolutely, we can't run away. The optics don't look good, but it is what it is that the minority had to stay away. But definitely, I like his approach to issues in life. So you just have to do what you can with what you have. Like they say, if life gives you lemons, you make what? Lemonade. If life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. So it's already happened. So I expect that he will rise above the occasion and then see what he can do. Once he implements his policies, seeing to fair and timely or expeditious trials, etc., the things I've already mentioned, the matter of the minority walking out will pale out. It won't be center stage. So it's only when Chief Justice Bafubode is not getting big policies implemented and making progress, then that's when critics can keep going back to, oh, even the vetting, oh, then it was good the minority walked out, you see. So it's rather even going to give him an impetus to want to achieve more so that that black spot would pale into the shadows. So I think that it's a motivator. Yes, when life gives you lemons, you make lemons.
Again, there was also another point that he made during the vetting. We're going to listen to another promise or objective that he intends to achieve regarding the matters related to lawyers and his view about not having many lawyers. Let's take a listen to exactly what Paul Bafo-Boney said. And Counsel, I'll come to you on it. Take a look.
The people in Ghana who are lawyers, despite the numbers that you see being called to the bar last year and 2 years ago, the numbers are not up to 7,000. The number of lawyers in Ghana are not up to 7,000. And out of this 7,000, less than 5,000 are in private practice. Less than 5,000 are in private practice. And what I mean by private practice is, for example, those who are on the bench are also part of it. Attorney generals and then the practitioners. That doesn't include those who are in the banks, Bank of Ghana and other places. All those are people who are not even in practice. So you see, if you take the number 5,000 as lawyers in Ghana and you measure it against the population of Ghana, you have a ratio of 1 to 7,000 citizens. 1 lawyer to 7,000 citizens. Nigeria, they have, I think, 1,500 or 2,500. The UN sustainable is that it should be 1 person to 250.
Well, Almighty people, that's Justice Paul Bafo-Boney there. Not enough lawyers in Ghana. Under 7,000, he gives the breakdown. And you are in private practice. You come face to face with the realities he's talking about. Is it a position you align with?
Can't wait to see the new reforms that will lead to an increase, that will lead to an uplift in the number of lawyers we graduate every year. We need a lot of lawyers. Ghana, we haven't, you see the statistics he used. So by the statistics he used, he said in Ghana, we are doing 1 lawyer to about 6,500, right? Mm-hmm. And that maybe if I got the 6,500 on, but it was a figure bigger, far bigger than Nigeria, where Nigeria, they are doing 1 lawyer to 1,500 citizens. So you see that the Nigerian statistics look far better than ours. We are way behind. And so we need more lawyers. We need more lawyers. Look, I keep giving people the example that if Accra becomes full, looking at where I live, I'll start going to Nkoko to practice. I don't know what is in Nkoko, but maybe, yes, Nkoko, Afram Plains, we'll go. Yes, and Accra gets choked. Nobody will tell us that we should move out of Accra to go to Afram Plains and Nkoko to practice. So, I mean, more lawyers are welcome. It will make our society better. We need more lawyers. When we get more lawyers, we'll sue and insist on rights. Just like he himself said that now we are suing on almost everything. We are not quite there. Okay, I think there's still a lot. Just like he himself has said it, that we need more lawyers. So the more we have lawyers, then the more we'll sue. We'll make the society better. We will also go and take part in farming. Let people not be scared that we will just be there talking and get hungry. No, there are lawyers who are farmers. I know Professor Atifa, he has a big poultry farm. Myself, I'm into piggery with lawyer Kwesi Jean. I could mention many other lawyers who are also farmers. Okay, so graduating more lawyers doesn't mean that we will not pay attention to agriculture. No, that's not it. We can do the two. Okay.
Indeed. It's a very interesting example that you gave, and also the reality that you live with. Well, People, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight, getting to know the other things that you do as well. But stay with us. There's a lot to come up regarding, there's been some agitation with this 9% minimum wage increase that has been announced. Well, we'll hear from Austin Game, he's a labor expert, so stay with us. But coming up next year on Ghana Tonight, stay with the judiciary and bring you an update on the $2 million Sky Train that never was. That trial that is in motion as we speak. The very interesting development earlier today, because the first prosecution witness has been testifying, now alleging minutes said to reflect board approval for payment is inaccurate. A former board member of the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund has testified in the SkyTrain trial earlier today. He told an Accra High Court the board did not consider or approve payment for this said deal. So, who approved the payment of the $2 million, and how exactly and where exactly did this $2 million specifically land in terms of the money and who approved its disbursement? Dennis Pobere Esquire is joining me in the studio. You've been following this case quite closely. You were in court earlier today. What transpired?
Yes, well, so trial has started in this particular matter, and that is the infamous $2 million Accra Sky Train project, which was supposed to have been carried out by the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund, GIF. Now, we do know that as part of the proceedings that have been ongoing, there have been some interlocutory matters. That is to say, they are making some applications in between, seeking to get more information. The last time we had a conversation about this was the fact that the CEO, who is one of the accused persons in this, the former CEO, rather, of GIF, Solomon Asamoah, had gone to the Court of Appeal. That's because at the High Court, he had requested that the prosecution should disclose board meetings, because the whole crux of prosecution's case is that you made a payment of $2 million for a Sky Train, which never happened. This prosecution says that was done without the approval of the board.
Yeah.
So he makes an application to the High Court that if you disclose the board minutes, we would see that indeed there was some conversation about this particular project. That was refused. He went to the Court of Appeal. That was also dismissed. Now they are back to the High Court for the main trial. Now, the first witness for prosecution is in the box, and this is what he testifies about. That is Yao Odamidakwa. He says that the only time he, as a board member, became aware of the said $2 million payment made was through the Auditor General's reports.
I see. That was after the fact.
But keep in mind, prosecution's case is that you made payment of $2 million for a Sky Train, which did not have the board's approval. Now, this is a former board member testifying that the only time he became aware of this payment was in an Auditor General's reports.
That was even at the end of that audit year.
Exactly.
I see.
He goes on to also testify that due diligence reports should have been presented to the board for approval before payment. So this is somebody who is testifying in respect of his knowledge of the operations of the board. And he says in respect of such things, due diligence reports should have been presented for the board to approve before the payment. He also testifies to the fact that board minutes said to show deliberations concerning SkyTrain project not accurate. Now, this is the same matter that the former CEO, Solomon Asamoah, had requested for disclosure of the board minutes.
True.
Because his contention is that if such disclosures were made, then they would see the conversation at the board level regarding this particular project. But this former board member says that that suggestion is not accurate. He also goes on to testify to the fact that the board did not deliberate or take any decision on that particular project.
They didn't take any decision on it?
That's what he says. So the big question is, how did that money get paid? He also says that no funding was approved by the board for the project. And these are the key areas that he's been testifying about in respect of the matters that have to do with this Sky Train trial. Remember, he's a former board member. So if anything happened at the board level, the understanding is that he ought to have been a part of it, or he ought to have some knowledge about the operations of the board. But this is what he says. There are facts within his knowledge for the purpose of this particular trial, Alfred. So we're keeping eyes on this particular one, together with other matters which are also running, and we'll keep our viewers updated as and when we get the information.
Indeed, because this is a no-brainer. I mean, if the board did not deliberate or take any decision on this SkyTrain project, obviously they will not be aware of any payment or approval for disbursement of monies.
Well, so that's what he says.
That's the base of the issue at play right now.
But it doesn't end here. He will undergo cross-examination. So that is also another leg to look out for.
Which, in this case, the accused will now have the opportunity.
Yes, to cross-examine this witness, to test the veracity or the veracity of these statements that have been made, or the credibility of this particular person.
I do appreciate you. Thank you. Dennis Babawadam Esquire is following this case in the courts every time it comes up. So we'll continuously get updates here on Ghana Tonight. But coming up next, tensions rise over the 9% base pay increase. Unions are unhappy. Government is urging calm. We speak to a labor expert who has been involved in a number of negotiations, and in fact, he has some exclusive information, some detailed information about all of the happenings regarding this 9% minimum wage. So stay with us. After this quick break, we'll have a conversation with Austin Gumming. He's a labor expert, and we understand why organized labor is not happy right now. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Why
Workers disappointed by government's announcement of a 9% increase in base pay for public sector employees. Labor leaders say while they had hoped for a higher adjustment, they are prepared to push for a cost of living allowance, that's COLA, from 2026 if inflation and other economic conditions worsen. Now, the government on Sunday, or yesterday, announced a 9% salary increase for workers on the single spine pay policy following negotiations with organized labor. Now, the new pay adjustment will take effect from January 2026. Austin government is a labor expert. Mr. Government, I know that you definitely are privy to some more information beyond what has been put out in the media. How would organized labor leaders achieve that objective of convincing their members that, well, this 9% is not good, we could have done better, but then again, accept it as has been put out?
Thank you very much. Well, I am not too surprised about the concerns being raised by some members of the unions regarding the 9% achievement by the leadership of the union. But let me from the outset say congratulations to both the Ghana Employees Association, government leadership, and organized labor. They have done exceptionally well. The point is that we have lived in the past with a certain mindset of pressurizing governments into submission by way of adjusting both the national daily minimum wage and the base pay. That's how we have lived, and it has cost us, unfortunately, beyond description. It has affected the fiscal policies of various governments and the forest management, as well as ensuring that we do not fall back as it used to be. Now, fortunately, we have a government in place that is mindful about all these past events and have taken pragmatic steps to ensure that we have an integrative economic model that would help working people not to suffer and fall into the doldrums in which we found ourselves the past 8 years. I have no intention of speaking for government and or accusing past government. They are all my friends. But the reality is that we have some knowledge and we can share it. The point is that in setting up a national daily minimum wage and a base pay for public sector workers, you have to consider a number of things. One, especially that of inflation, the projected inflation and the actual. If government projected to achieve a 9% inflation and they, let's say, achieved a 15% inflation, what it means that they have as much as 6% deficit, which calls for a restoration. So a restoration will be made to enable people to be restored to parity. That is how national daily minimum wage, which I have chaired a number of times, is set. Now, the other point is that the cost of living in the country will be considered based upon these inflationary trends, as well as forest management. And therefore, it is important these three key variables will be taken into consideration in talking about this issue that is before us. And that's the reason why people should stop perhaps accusing, but generally I can appreciate the transition in which you find ourselves. Now, because of the integrative economic management, workers will have to be educated to understand that it is not only about pay. It's about ensuring that they have food security. It's about ensuring that their health needs are met. And it's about ensuring that their children are well educated.
But Mr. Gowdy, so you mentioned the inflation rate, right? Dropping from 9.4% to 8% in October. But then again, the concern when you speak to members of organized labor is that there hasn't been a direct impact on the cost of living in terms of that sharp and steep depreciation in the inflation rate, which is one of the factors that you have just referenced influences the determination of the base pay, right? Because the understanding is that the rate of increase in prices of goods and services has reduced, but not the price of goods and services. So you can understand where the concern is that, they're still looking at the real economy, the real cost of living that they live with on a daily basis. That's a point to consider, is it not?
Well, I appreciate the concerns they have, but I think it is not well-founded.
Why is that?
The reason being, yes, it's not well-founded, and it cannot be well-founded. The reason is simple. That's why we are talking about an integrative economy and not just hanging things around as if somebody has washed a dress and has hung it and is going to remove it. That's not the issue. We are talking about building a nation. For the first time in the history of this country, we have an ongoing holistic construction going on our roads. Whom is it going to benefit? How is it going to impact on the economy in a short while to come? Therefore, we have to put into perspective all these efforts so that we do not talk about pay increase as if using a 30% of national income in sharing upon public sector wage levels alone will translate the people into something. We don't run economy like that. And I think that for the first time, we should also appreciate that the traditional scandalous running of an economy is not with us again. We don't have scandals in this country. People are not corrupt as it used to be. And therefore, we must appreciate the fact that taming corruption, ensuring that education is progressively being managed much better than before. And today, people are saying that they are not reflecting. Today, people demonstrated in Tamale because they have too much of rice they cannot sell, and other cereals they cannot sell. In Brong-Ahafo, people are lamenting about availability of eggs and therefore chicken that they are unable to sell. People must be glad. And therefore, it's also to be understood that inflation being tamed does not mean that you have a drastic reduction. It only helps to ensure that the acceleration of increase will be deaccelerated, will be decreased. And therefore, people should understand, and I believe that Dr. Otu of TUC, the Deputy Secretary General, and his colleagues are very capable of helping explaining this thing to their members to appreciate the dynamics of the changes we are witnessing in this country. So I think that kudos to all of them. They've done well. I appreciate it. When I was very young and I was working, I would have done the same thing they are doing. But I think that times have changed, and they must thank God for a government that is responding positively to the demands of changing trends in the economic management. And so in about 1.5 years to come, I think that things will change, and the inflation will come down. It won't go up. If it goes up, it will be marginal.
Right. We're expecting the finance minister to present the budget, all things being equal, on the 13th. So there'll be a bit more detail on some of the measures that will be put in place to sustain the gains that have been experienced so far. Thank you. Austin Garba, Celebra Expert, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. Tomorrow, make a date, because we're going to sink our teeth into whether or not this investigative report on the helicopter crash that claimed 8 lives, gallant Ghanaians, should be made public or not. That report has been presented to the president. Stay with us tomorrow, make a date, but join the New Day team tomorrow morning. Also, 3FM 92.7, the Sunrise team. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint.